Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Early Career Academic. On this channel I explore how I use the Passion Planner to pursue personal and professional goals. In this video I'm going to create a checklist for an academic writing project that I'm working on this year and going to use one of the back pages in the Passion Planner to show you how I use those. As I mentioned, I'm an academic, I'm a wife, a mother, and I am a Passion Planner ambassador. So if you're interested in any of the Passion Planner products I use in this video, please feel free to use the discount code in the description of this video and the affiliate link there. I really do appreciate it when you use those codes or links. And also just for being here and watching these videos, please give them a thumbs up if you enjoy them. Okay, so I'm flipping to the back pages here of the planner. So there are two types of back pages in the planner. There are these dot grid style pages, and then there are these blank pages. For something like this, I am going to use the blank pages here. It doesn't really matter. I just kind of use the dot grid as like rough notes or like sketching plans for these videos or like that kind of thing. Whereas I use these, I definitely check in with these pages way more regularly than I would with these like chicken scratch notes back here. So I am flipping to this new spread because I think I'm going to track one project I'm working on here and another project I'm working on here, and I think it'll be nice to have them all in one spread. So this is going to be a very practical sort of plan with me. I might throw on some stickers or maybe use some highlighting, but for the most part, it's going to be super practical. So don't be expecting tons of like jazz. This is a checklist for an edited collection project that I am the editor for. And I'm just putting edited collection project instead of the title of the project, just because I might change the title. I haven't decided yet. So yes, essentially, and what I'm going to do here while I'm chatting at you is I'm going to write out all the things I need to do for one part of the project and all the things I need to do for the other part of the project. And I think I might split the page and do it that way. I think that will be like the most useful way of shaping it for myself. And I'll obviously mention the steps to you too, but while I'm jotting these down, I already jot them down on some scratch paper so I can talk to you while I'm copying it out, and then I'll talk about what the steps were in case you're interested. So this edited collection sprang from some work I did during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I was sharing in conferences what I had done for pivoting my community engaged courses. These are courses which ask the students to do volunteer work. So a lot of those types of classes went away in the pandemic because it was too hard to safely have students volunteer. Now, at the same time, there was sort of like an interesting surge or pivot of the kinds of community engagement that were taking place in a lot of these types of classes. And after the dust settled a little bit, it occurred to me that this was like a very unique for our time, for our generation, obviously, event that happened, and it had like wide ramifications. I think it will continue to have ramifications for the way that we do community engaged work in higher ed. And I wanted to develop a project that would capture that. But instead of just submitting my own story for publication about what I did, I was interested in what the field more widely also did. There are various approaches. And I decided to pitch a edited collection to one of the publishers. I spoke with, what happened was, it's like a lot happened in the last year and I don't remember all of the sequence. What happened was I was supposed to present this research that for my own class at a conference, a virtual conference the summer before last. And that was the same exact time that I had my miscarriage. So I did not end up presenting that research, but this publisher was looking through the research presentation list and saw my presentation and was interested. So they had emailed me at that time to ask if I wanted to, write a book or do an edited collection on that. And at the time, I was in no shape to even contemplate that. I'm pretty sure I glanced at the email and closed it. And then, once I surfaced from my grief and had time to think about it, I was like, you know what? I think this would make an amazing edited collection, and I should definitely consider it. So I pitched the edited collection to them. I set up the CFP, that's the call for proposals, and sent it out into the world. This was last spring, and stupidly I set a June deadline. And let's just say academics are predictable. Nobody was paying attention to CFPs at that time. Everyone was just happy to be on summer break, and I got 5 submissions, which does not make an edited collection. So I had to reissue the CFP in the fall, and that was awesome. I received 40 submissions, so you can see the difference. I also found some cool listservs that I didn't know about previous to that, so I think that helped, distribute the CFP. So then I went through the process and I selected the ones that would be in the volume. Altogether, I think we're going to have about 22 chapters. So kind of a long edited collection, but the chapters are relatively short. So that's good. It's more in the 8,000 word range as opposed to the 10,000 word range, which is more typical of certain kinds of edited collections. So yeah, I did that. And basically since then, the only work I've done on the project is collecting the author contracts and getting them over to the publisher, which was fine because I was on maternity leave and definitely not, in a place where I was yes, I'm going to do more work. So that's where we are currently at. All those are sent over, feeling good about that. But now I need to actually get my act together and do my parts of the book so that I'm ready to handle the incoming manuscripts and facilitate the peer review and all of that stuff that I have to do as part of the project. So this checklist doesn't reflect any of that work. I might, I'm not sure if I'm going to track that in a list like this or just kind of keep track of it in my normal planning. But for my work, this is helpful to me because, I think some of us fall into that trap of I need to write that introduction. But there are a million steps, not a million. There are obviously a good number of steps that go into writing an introduction and the chapter that I'm contributing to the volume. And it's, I think, helpful for me to come look at this and be okay, what's the next thing on the list? What else do I need to do? And these are in sort of order of the way I think I'm going to do them. But actually there's a little bit of wiggle room in what order these are accomplished. And I like that because sometimes you're just not feeling, the drafting or the researching part or whatever. But they are sort of in the order I would need to complete them in order to move it along. So I'll just go through them really quickly. The first one is set up file structure. So essentially at the beginning of any academic project, I set up a folder to collect the articles that I find into it. I have also a way that I save them, year, author, title, so that they're easy to navigate once I get to the later steps in the project. And then I start collecting research using keywords. So this is exactly how I teach my students to do it, but I start out with some keywords to see what there is. And then it actually, as I was writing this list out, reminded myself that I also want to look at I want to get some information about the number of CE courses in pandemic versus pre-pandemic. I don't know if that's possible, but we'll see. Hopefully someone has figured that out. Because I suspect, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, I know this was the case in my own institution, that there was a huge dip in the number of CE courses offered during the pandemic for obvious reasons. And so I want to basically put that in the intro as some context, for what my authors are contributing. They stuck with it. They figured out a way to pivot. They had, I'm not saying that they did better than everyone else, but they definitely found a way to make it work. And I know I had to make so many compromises with the way my classes normally run myself to make it work. Part of the challenge was organizations we typically work with were so overwhelmed trying to figure out a way to safely deliver their services to the communities they serve that they had no time to figure out how my students could help them, right? So that was a big part of it. And but I wanted to capture those challenges, but also the opportunities the pandemic presented for different kinds of community engaged work, and that's what I'm hoping the volume does. So I want to collect the research. This is collect CE research. So this is sort of like pre-pandemic research on community engagement, this is going to be a little the challenging part of the research, is capturing the big ideas in the field, and were they preparing us for this type of global crisis, or what, essentially. So that's going to be the challenging part here. I've already started on this part. Then I need to create, I have my students create kind of a source map to see how the sources work together thematically and through citation. And I use citation chasing to find other sources. It's sort of working smarter, not harder. And then I take index cards, like the one I wrote my notes on for today, and I go through my research and I jot down some really kind of quickish notes, maybe some quotes. I put the author's name at the top with the year, and then I have these index cards and I decide which of these sources I'm going to include in the paper and which ones I'm not. Now, if you're an academic, you know that, especially when you're new at this, you might privilege the voices of others more in your work than you otherwise would. At least what I'm discovering as I become an older academic is that I have fewer, I'm using sources less. Let's put it that way. I do want to do a review of research in the intro. That's the whole point of an introduction, is to establish context and to provide the discourse that our authors are working with. But at the same time, I don't need to, have reams and reams of notes for each article. I don't do that anymore. First, I find it a debilitating approach to research. It makes me not want to research. Instead, I have these index cards because it limits the amount of stuff I can pull out of an article, and that way I zero in on the most important idea in that article and the one I'm probably most likely going to include in a review of research on that. So that's what I do there. And then I'm going to create a reverse outline of an edited collection intro that I was a contributing author for. I want to double check and see how do they structure that intro? Do I want to mimic that structure? Do I want to change anything about that structure? And then basically create an outline for myself to follow. Then I have write shitty draft of intro. Yes, you should always have a shitty draft part of your writing process. You need to get it out. And when I mean shitty, I mean shitty. When you are insert citation here, or sometimes you're there's a verb. I can't think of the verb. What word am I thinking of? I just put a big old X. Put a big old X right where that word should be, and I move on. I keep writing, because if you get hung up on that language thing, you are not going to get that shitty draft out. You're not going to be able to move on. So that's how I do the shitty draft. And then I come back and with a fresh brain, and I'm oh yeah, the word I was looking for was blank. And so I go through and I tighten that draft up, and then I give it to my writing group for feedback, and they give me feedback, and then I apply their feedback. And that's where I'm at. Now, with an introduction to an edited collection, obviously what I can't do yet is I don't have the manuscripts from my authors. So at the end of an edited collection intro, you have this chapter covers this and this chapter covers that, right? I do have their abstracts, so I could do kind of a preliminary thing approach to that. However, if you're an academic, you also know that a lot changes from abstract to paper. So it may be doing double work if I do it that way. I might ask my friend who's made a couple edited collections like what her approach was and just copy it. So that's that. And then these steps are for the chapter I'm contributing to the volume. These are more typical. I have to, I already received notes from my writing group on one of the conference papers I presented on my classes, and so I need to apply those notes. I need to, I have outlined a new draft here. That's kind of depends on what their notes said. I need to put more research in it is what I need to do. So this research will help me with this too. And then I need to revise it, of course, and get some additional feedback from my writing group before, I put it in the mix. So those are the process steps for this project. And if you're an academic, I encourage you to think this through for any writing project that you're working on. I think it will really help. And if you're not an academic and you're watching this, this kind of approach could be for any project that you're working on in your life, because chances are there's way more steps than we think there are. We can get hung up on, like if we're just like finish the basement or whatever, and we're not like just giving ourselves these smaller tasks to tackle. So I think this is a useful way to use the back pages, and I can come back here and check off. It's like very satisfying to check off these boxes to kind of move the project along. And to remind myself, I've already thought this through. Like I know what I need to do, and like here's the list. I don't have to keep thinking about it. It's in here. Let's see. Let me bring out my passion planner markers. My baby is napping right now, and so she might get up soon, but I do have time, I think, to bring in a little bit of color. Just to kind of jazz it up. And I think I'm feeling, let's do the blue. Sorry if the video is extra wobbly today. My cat is on the table trying to annoy me to death. I think she can tell it's like the end of the week, and she's like, I haven't had mommy and daddy snuggles in so long. When is it time for snuggling? And I will say we snuggle more on the weekends, obviously, because we have more time. But she's doing pretty well considering that she's been essentially usurped by a human baby. Honestly, like I do try to snuggle her. It's just like with the baby, sometimes challenging. And then also like I myself get touched out, like when you are used to relative bodily autonomy and then suddenly you do not have bodily autonomy most of the day, then like when you do get those few moments to yourself, very often you're just like, nobody touch me, get away. Like I need my autonomy for a second. So Onyx is like getting used to me not being like as willing to cuddle her on a regular basis. But I don't want you to think that she's deprived. I am in fact cuddling her on a relatively regular basis. So, and you know what? I am gonna throw a sticker or two on here. This is from the Women's Empowerment sticker book. And I just remembered there are some like cute kind of like motivational stickers that I wouldn't mind popping on here. You got this. Investing in myself. That's like essentially what academic writing is, right? Like an investment in yourself and your career. And even though like I'm not in a research role and I don't need to do this technically, like I am investing in myself. It is an investment that I'm willing to make, not only in my career, but also in, just for my own mental health. I really enjoy doing this kind of work. And I think it's like a big part of what makes me a better teacher and a better colleague. And if I didn't have time or the wherewithal to do at least some research every year, I think I would struggle. This isn't exactly the type of academic like career I thought I was going to end up doing. Thought I was going to be in some like adorable liberal arts college teaching, teaching students about post-colonial literature. But that's not where I'm at. Hashtag modern academia and the fall of capitalism. But yes, this is where we're at, and I love it now, and I love it even more when I'm doing this kind of work on top of my other obligations. So anyway, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, even if it was a little boring. And I hope you have a good one, a good week. Please stay tuned. I do have some more Plan With Me's coming up. I have some more back pages I'm going to fill out. I need to do so much planning this year. There's so many things that I have going on, and I want to make sure that I pace myself and I'm pacing the planning so that I'm not too overwhelmed. So anyway, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you are not already a subscriber. It was a pleasure chatting at you. Have a good one.